Let's go. We have 1 week left and we are not playing. Now, she will crush him. She will crush him if we have her back, if we have all of ourselves in this race. And I got some signs from all the rallies I've gone to, but rallies now are the past. But I want to rally you guys. We've got this one, freedom, right? That's one sign I have. Now, this is one of my favorites here. It says Michigan voter. See that one? And then on the flip side, we have Harris Walls. And then I think this is a cute one. This is from the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, USA. Okay, I got my signs. I've got my mindset. What else do we need to enter this week? I think the best way to start this week countdown is with Michelle Obama, because she has ended that when they go low, we go high. No, that's not where we are anymore. We are fighting because, as Kamala Harris says, when we fight, we win. Let's play some Michelle Obama to get us going this Tuesday morning.
To get a better sense of what could happen.
Sorry, let me start at the very start.
So let me take a minute to help folks, especially the men in our lives, to get a better sense of what could happen if we keep dismantling parts of our reproductive care system piece by piece, as Trump intends to do. I want folks to understand the chilling effect, not just on critical abortion care, but on the entirety of women's health, all of it. There are good reasons why so many women and physicians are horrified by what's happened since Donald Trump's justices overturned Roe v. Wade. We're seeing women scrambling across state lines to get the care they need. Just this week, a major medical journal reported that after Roe was overturned, infant mortality in this country rose, in large part because women are being forced to carry fetuses that won't survive to term. One woman spent 22 days in jail on murder charges after she miscarried in her own bathroom. We are seeing doctors unsure if they can treat ectopic pregnancies. Doctors being told they can't treat a woman until she becomes so close to death that only a life of the mother exception will allow them to act. So just imagine the profound effects for all of us if Donald Trump wins this election. In states that are already...
Okay, I'm continuing with a little more Michelle. We're going to keep playing this to the end because she is the closer here. Let's keep going.
Bans into effect, his FDA could further outlaw patchwork systems of telehealth appointments and mail order pills, thereby eliminating the last remaining protections for women in those states. He could take actions that effectively ban abortion nationwide, which would put all of us in danger, no matter what state we live in. We will see more doctors hesitating or shying away from providing life-saving treatments because they are worried about being arrested. More medical students reconsidering even pursuing women's health at all. More OB-GYN clinics without enough doctors to meet demand closing their doors, leaving untold numbers of women in communities throughout this country without a place to go for basic gynecological care, which in turn will leave millions of us at risk of undiagnosed medical issues like cervical and uterine cancers. This is real. So do you think Donald Trump is thinking about the consequences for the millions of women who will be living in medical deserts? Does anyone think he has the emotional maturity and foresight to come up with a plan to protect us? Y'all, we are teetering on the edge. Even before these state bans, America was already lagging behind every other wealthy nation on measures like maternal mortality and paid leave. So we could be right back to the days before Roe, which many young people here don't even remember. the days when abortion wasn't as safe as it is today, the days when the number of mothers of color dying in childbirth was 30 to 40% higher than when it was under Roe. So to the men who love us, let me just try to paint a picture of what it will
This
feel
right
like
here.
if America,
This is good.
the wealthiest nation on earth, keeps revoking basic care from its women, and how it will affect every single woman in your life. Your girlfriend could be the one in legal jeopardy if she needs a pill from out of state or overseas, or if she has to travel across state lines because the local clinic closed up. Your wife or mother could be the ones at higher risk of dying from undiagnosed cervical cancer because they have no access to regular gynecological care.
Right.
Your daughter could be the one too terrified to call the doctor if she's bleeding during an unexpected pregnancy. Your niece could be the one miscarrying in her bathtub after the hospital turned her away. And this will not just affect women, it will affect you and your sons. The devastating consequences of teen pregnancy won't just be borne by young girls, but also by the young men who are the fathers. They too will have their dreams of going to college. Their entire future is totally upended by an unwanted pregnancy. If you and your partner are expecting a child, you will be right by her side at the checkups, terrified if her blood pressure is too high, or if there's an issue with the placenta, or if the ultrasound shows that the embryo was implanted in the wrong place, and the doctors aren't sure that they can intervene to keep the woman you love safe. If your wife is shivering and bleeding on the operating room table during a routine delivery gone bad, her pressure dropping as she loses more and more blood, or some unforeseen infection spreads and her doctors aren't sure if they can act, you will be the one praying that it's not too late. You will be the one pleading for somebody, anybody, to do something. And then there is the tragic but very real possibility that in the worst case scenario, you just might be the one holding flowers at the funeral. You might be the one left to raise your children alone. See, these are just some of the ways women die during childbirth. And I don't want to be a downer, y'all. But in many cases, there is no warning, and things go bad very quickly. And when it happens, every second of hesitation or delay can lead to devastating outcomes. So I am asking y'all from the core of my being to take our lives seriously. Please, do not put our lives in the hands of politicians, mostly men, who have no clue or do not care about what we as women are going through, who don't fully grasp the broad-reaching health implications that their misguided policies will have on our health outcomes. The only people who have standing to make these decisions are women with the advice of their doctors. We are the ones with the knowledge and experience to know what we need.
I mean, yes. And let me add to this. I have learned over the years to be more open about my own life. And we have seen people, I've seen close friends of mine, Allison Gill from Mother She Wrote. She's talked about a personal experience she had involving a sexual assault. That's not what I'm here to tell you about. When I was listening just now to Michelle Obama talk about what could happen in labor and delivery, I was half listening to Michelle and I was half reliving my own experience with my youngest child, who is now, thankfully, a senior in high school, beloved, applying to college. Now, I was someone when I was in labor who decided to try to do it the natural way, to try to do unmedicated labor. And I learned a lot. I know maybe For some people, that sounds crazy, but I learned a lot about not just breathing, but I also learned a lot about how to think of the contraction pain as pressure and not pain. And for those of you who have never gone through labor and don't know what it's like, I think the best analogy, because I've experienced it, you know how when you get a Charlie horse in your calf, they say from potassium deprivation and it kind of clamps up in the middle of the night. And when you're a kid, you feel like you're screaming in pain. And the more it doesn't release. It takes until that muscle cramp until it's going to. Well, imagine that, but maybe 5 times more, but right in the center of your groin, your uterus. Okay. So that, for anyone who doesn't have a uterus, who's never been through a pregnancy, that's what it felt like to me. And exactly that same way, the contraction where then suddenly it releases and you're fine. But then they get closer and closer together. Anyway, so I did that for 12 hours, but it turns out my labor wasn't progressing enough. And the doctor said, I think we're going to give you some Pitocin to speed up labor. And after having been going through contractions for 12 hours at this point, I said, if you're going to speed up labor, I'm a little worried that I won't be able to handle it physically, because if pain's going to get higher and I'm exhausted. So I said, let's do the epidural. And he gave me, the anesthesiologist comes in, gives me the epidural, guys. And I was like, holy shit, why didn't I get this epidural like, I don't know, 8 months earlier, honest to God. I was like, this is great. So at that point, fine, I had the epidural. Then they are starting to induce labor. And then what happened is I spiked a fever. And then I was having trouble breathing because I started to panic because I have asthma and that can be induced by that. Anyway, spiked this fever and they decide, that was, by the way, this is another 12 hours later, like almost 24 hours. I get this fever because I'm not dilating enough. And they say, you know what? We're going to have to take, my husband was there, Michael was there. They decided they're going to have an emergency C-section at that point. Fine. And now I have, instead of this sort of glorious natural childbirth I had envisioned, I've got an oxygen mask. I've already had my epidural. I'm hooked up to these beeping machines and they wheel me in to the emergency room to deliver the baby. So there I am, and I'm feeling like I am sinking into a hole, and so grateful that there are these people around me who I perceived were saving my life, including my husband and my doctors. And when they, cut me open to do the C-section, however they, there are many layers, whatever, they see our child, and thank God everything was fine, but they noticed the nuchal cord was wrapped around the child's neck twice. No oxygen deprivation, nothing like that, but just in a position that if I had actually gone through I wouldn't have been able to go through, luckily wasn't able to go through the birth canal, the child, because that would have strangled my child. I would have actually literally died, right? So this was a bit of a miracle. Everyone was fine. Baby's great. Baby's born. I'm happy, or at least I'm being, sewed and stapled up. End of the story. Lovely, lovely life beyond that. But I had some PTSD after that because I would always go back into that dark place right when they were putting the oxygen mask on me and they're wheeling me into the emergency room. And I am thinking about how women used to die in labor. And I am knowing that I would have been a casualty without modern medicine, right? I had been, living in Western Massachusetts, kind of a hippie town. And there was a lot of social pressure to, get a doula, don't have any medication, what have you. If I had been in a situation where there had not been medical care, or it had been 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago, I would have been me, my child, we would have been casualties, and I would have left behind my husband and another child, right? So when I hear Michelle talking about this isn't a hypothetical. This is real. And it's not just about me. My God, you guys, you know these stories. I know people who have not made it because of things similar to this in life, medical interventions that don't work. We are lucky that we have such skilled medical providers. Yes, our healthcare system in America needs a lot of help. It needs to be accessible and affordable to all. We need more doctors. We need more healthcare providers, no question. So why in the world would we go back? Why in the world would we hamstring medical providers? Would we, when you get pregnant, make anyone think, especially me? I was older at the time. My oldest child was born when I was 40, right? So why would you put moms in this kind of situation in fear, right? And, so very personal, very true. And I'm glad that Michelle is using this moment to appeal to people who may not actually think because they're young or they've never been in a world pre-Roe v. Wade. They don't know about back alley abortions. They don't know about a botched abortion where someone could go septic. They're only learning now when they hear about young women like Amber Thurman in Georgia. They're only learning now when they hear Michelle Obama with her tremendous platform talking about this, appealing directly to them. So now, I bet you all know where I'm headed with this. Michelle is so good and so right that Donald Trump is now on the attack against her. And I'm going to play you this video. And I will tell you there's no question in my mind that he is not only threatening her, but the rest of us. So I'm going to play this because this is what we do here. I don't want to give him a platform, but you got to know what's going on.
November 5th, you know what's nasty to me? Michelle Obama.
Wait, this is a pivot. He's telling them to vote on November 5th, and then he just starts attacking her. Let's try this again.
Border November 5th, you know what's nasty to me? Michelle Obama. Ooh. I always tried to be so nice and respectful. Oh, she opened up a little bit of a box. She opened up a little bit of something. Oh, she was nasty. Ooh. Shouldn't be that way. That was a big mistake that she made. With you.
Excuse me? She opened up a box? What does that mean? Did someone talk about Pandora's box to him? And someone using a reference to Greek mythology told him she opened up this box and now all hell will break loose? What is he saying there? And saying that's a big mistake? Yeah. We've talked about how he is going to target, if he wins, the so-called enemies from within. But here's the deal. Whether or not Donald Trump wins or loses, he is going to incite violence. It's a fact. He did it before. It almost worked. And he's still lying about that. Okay, so if he wins, he's going to pardon all those people. If he loses, he's going to try to steal the election in the ways that we talked about with his secret plan that he is now referencing on stage, right? We talked about that a little bit. I'm not going to talk about it again, right? It involves Mike Johnson. If the Republicans take the House back, if the Republicans keep the House, remember that the House of Representatives gets sworn in a few days before January 6th. So we're not going to talk about that. If you want to know more about it, watch yesterday's show. But what's happening now, no matter what, from today or from yesterday forward, the MAGA followers of Donald Trump and other chaos agents are starting with violence. And there will be more. And that was a threat. And I'm going to play for you what I am concerned about and how we can help. This is about ballot boxes. You know, these special boxes, it's not like a mailbox, but like a ballot box set out in front of the county polling for early voting. You can return your ballot, right? I'm gonna play this for you. We can talk on the other side.
News from the Pacific Northwest. State election officials are working to determine how many ballots were destroyed overnight after two apparent arson attacks. Drop-off ballot boxes were apparently targeted in Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. Police found an incendiary device, that's their phrase, inside the Portland ballot drop-off box. County elections officials say fire suppressant inside the drop box protected nearly all the ballots. Only 3 were damaged. But officials in Vancouver fear that hundreds of ballots could have been damaged or even destroyed. It is not clear if the two are connected the FBI is investigating.
So this could make your heart race, but what we can do is guard those spaces. You know, no one's stopping any of us. If you live nearby such a ballot box, don't be intimidating. You can organize a vigil with friends, especially overnight, not during the daytime, not a, you know, and you sit there maybe in your car and keep an eye out. Now, in this instance, I have seen that there is a car that was identified, at least for one of the drop boxes, whether it was the one in Oregon or Washington State. And, you know, you can almost see the plate, you know, but catching an individual person isn't what we need to do. I mean, that's after the fact. And some of these folks are obviously lone wolves. You don't need a conspiracy to have a lone wolf or someone doing what they think Donald will want, right? Destroying early vote ballots does two things. More people, more Democrats vote early, first of all. Second of all, it creates fear and chaos about the legitimacy of the election. Now, in addition, Donald Trump is already claiming and lying about people destroying, about what he has seen people putting in fake ballots and so on. And there's already a Russian disinformation campaign that is being circulated that has already been identified as coming from the Kremlin to try to make it look like, again, give him these lies he can put forward if and when he wins. Okay, but again, it's okay because this time we're not going to bury our heads in the sand. This time we understand the assignment. And there are opportunities, and I was going to do this. I'm not anymore, and let me explain why. There are opportunities to sign up to be a poll observer, especially if you're a lawyer, but even if you're not, state by state, there are trainings to be a poll observer. All you're supposed to be doing is, you go to the online training and you can watch to make sure. I think what they do, my older brother says he's done it before. You just sit there and you watch, and then you text back if you see anything kind of unusual happening at the poll. You're not intervening, you're not intimidating, you're just keeping your eyes on democracy. I know some of you have done that. Also, now before I pivot to another topic, I want to acknowledge, as I was telling my story about a birth that complicated childbirth, but went fine in the end, thanks to medical intervention and the fact that we didn't, in Massachusetts at that time, or anywhere in the country, really have to worry about doctors being second guessed with interventions. I'm also noticing, you guys, so many of your stories in the chat, and I can't go and speak to each of you folks, but after the show, I think it takes about maybe 10 or 20 minutes after the show, the live chat gets loaded up onto YouTube, and I will find the time to comment there. Also, if you're watching later, you're watching this show not live, and you make comments about your personal experience, I will respond to you. I just can't do it all at once because I want everyone to get the attention they need or deserve when you share a story that is painful and exposing to you. Okay, so she will crush him, but again, she needs us. None of this happens if we don't vote. We're hearing in some states, 10, 13, maybe even higher percentage of people who have come out for either mail-in voting or early in-person voting. But even if it's 20 or 25%, that's not going to do it. We all need to turn out. And it's, the last day to vote is a week from today. If you haven't made a plan, make one. Also, do you know somebody who is housebound or who does not drive or who is ill or who isn't sure because they just changed states or they just changed homes or addresses where their polling place is, and you're someone who loves to find stuff out? Go help them. If you have a group chat, say, and you have friends in it or family, say, hey, have you all voted? You don't need to ask people who they're voting for. Have you all voted? And if not, does anyone move and need to know where their polling places? Offer rides to people. You can even make a plan, which I think is fun, to have an election night watch, whether it's on Zoom with your family, at your home, at a local restaurant. Because the more we talk about Election Day, the more people who don't always vote, whose livelihood and lives are on the line, will remember that November 5th, a week from today, next Tuesday, is the last day to vote. Now, I want to talk about something that happened before I return a little bit, the consequences of Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. And yesterday's show, which is my most watched, my single most watched live, I think it was over 11,000 when I woke up this morning for yesterday's show here. That was a show that, this time he went too far, essentially. I know we always say that, but if you want to know more about what went down at Madison Square Garden, please watch that program. We're going to highlight some of it because it's still obviously incredibly relevant. But what I want to talk about now is something that happened on CNN on Abby Phillips's roundtable. And she managed it well after the fact. And it's not her fault. She's not in charge of booking that this guy was on. But there was someone, a far right commentator, who has worked with JD Vance before and is known for his racist comments, was on this panel. And on the panel was Mehdi Hasan. I've been on Mehdi's show when he was on MSNBC, brilliant commentator from the UK. He is of Pakistani heritage and a Muslim, not American, I guess. He's a Muslim, member. What would you call it? Brit, right? I'm giving you this background. I don't usually introduce people based on where they're from and their ethnicity, right? But this is relevant to this story. Now, just to refresh your memory, you may know, I don't know, I think it was about a month ago or 5 weeks ago, in a targeted attack, and you may, I don't want to praise or condemn this. I am just telling you the facts so we can get to this story, which is that the Israeli government had been able to somehow become the secret supplier of some beepers. Well, Hezbollah, which is a terrorist organization, which has been operating north of Israel, has I'm just trying to think. Sort of operates in Lebanon, similar to Hamas. I think there's some people who work for Hezbollah who are part of sort of a governing body, but for the most part, my understanding, and I'm not an exact expert, is Hezbollah is a terror organization. And one thing they wanted to do so their movements couldn't be tracked is instead of using cell phones, they were using beepers to communicate. And I guess that wherever they ordered the beepers from, they thought it was a legit supplier. And I guess the Israeli military was able to implant in these beepers some kind of explosive device that was at some point triggered all at once. And this was like 4 or 5 weeks ago when that actually, the triggering this happened. And as a result, many people died. Many people were, because they saw their beeper and looked up, it exploded in their faces. They were maimed. And of course, people who were not actually involved, I think including children, were injured or killed when these things exploded. So I'm just giving you the full story and the facts. Now, that will set the stage for what happened on CNN. Here we go.
Want to be called Nazis? Stop doing. You're called an enemy.
Okay, I'm sorry. The backup is, this is the big debate. I think Mehdi's on there talking about what happened at Madison Square Garden. So I'm gonna scroll this back, and here we go. Oops, sorry, guys.
Want to be called Nazis? Stop.
The thing is,
what? Did you hear that? No, I'm just gonna let you know it's true. Mehdi has been called an anti-Semite. He is absolutely not. I've been on his show, as you know. He has come on the show. My friend Wajahat Ali and I had, which was called "A Muslim and a Jew Walk Into a Podcast" that was on Mary Trump Media. Mehdi Hasan is not an anti-Semite. He and I very much disagree on some aspects of the right of Israel to exist, like some fundamental stuff. And he and I, because of our friendship and I guess our working relationship through media, I will speak to him privately. He will privately tell me, I don't know, why did you say that? And we'll get in an argument. And I sometimes persuade him. I believe, sometimes I don't. We just don't fundamentally agree on some pieces of things. I fully respect him. Okay, so now let me play this. I want you to hear exactly what went down here very carefully, and then I will play the full thing, and then we're going to talk.
literally,
I thought he said Hamas. I
You didn't
apologize.
think I said Hamas?
After the break, he was not there, and she explained why. Do I need to break this down? I think I do. Number one, that smug son of a bitch basically said you should be killed. That's what he said about Milley. Unacceptable, number one, obviously. Number two, he is conflating all kinds of different things. What Milley was saying, he's a supporter of Palestinians, and that doesn't make him a supporter of Hamas. Now, as I told you, the beeper situation happened with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Thirdly, Milley himself is Muslim and he's from Pakistan. So all of this conflating of everybody together and threatening him with his life. I mean, I could break this down in further detail. It's not okay. It's not okay. Let's continue watching the rest of this, and then we're gonna pivot to something else.
Of Palestinian rights.
Yes, I did.
Why? Because when you hear
What's funny
Palestinian,
is
you
Rudy
hear Hamas.
Giuliani said this
No,
yesterday,
because-
so you're a great guest to
Listen.
be here
All
to
right,
defend
I
Rudy
told
Giuliani.
myself
Give me
I
one-
wasn't going to
give me-
entertain
give me one
nonsense
second.
today, and so at this point,
This is what we're in
I
now.
can't
This
do
is America in
Here's what
2024.
I will say.
Forget the
Here's what
racism.
That's right.
I should
That's
die.
right.
I didn't say that you
You
should
said,
die.
what does beeper mean? Don't give me your
I
fake
did not say
ignorance.
you should
Guys,
die.
Why did you say
guys,
with my
give me-
beeper
give me
go?
a-
What did you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper?
So what
I
did
said-
you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper?
No,
No, you didn't. You said, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
Brian, stop talking.
At least have the guts to support your racist
sorry.
comment.
Hang on.
I'm so sorry.
Let her bring it back.
This
Let her bring it back.
This is why yesterday's rally was disgusting.
Don't call us
and
Nazis, but I'm going to
outrageous.
threaten the brown guy as a
This is
terrorist
why.
and kill him.
Because I didn't ever say Donald Trump was Hitler. But do you know who stood on a stage yesterday and said, I want to come to the Nazi rally? I don't have to make up words and call you something. You're saying it for yourself. And what you just said
Kamala
right
Harris
here,
is a pimp
apologize,
handler.
but I will tell you, I don't accept that apology, and you didn't even say
That's
it to
fine.
me.
I didn't say it
that
to
was
you.
disgusting. But I can be offended when you don't even say it to me. I'm not Puerto Rican, but I was offended by what he said
Okay.
yesterday. And I'm offended that the former president and potentially future president would allow it and go for 12 hours and not say, I don't care. Because you know what? When Kamala Harris put out statements about switching up opinions, it wasn't good enough for Republicans.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you said it.
Why don't
'Cause
you take this back a
I love Ashley Ellison. She laid it down. I love how she said, he's like, well, I'm not talking to you. She said, well, I was offended. Right? Why wouldn't she be by what he said, threatening Milley? And she's not Puerto Rican, and she was offended, of course, because some of us understand our shared humanity. And even though I began by describing Milley's heritage and his religion, I did that for the purpose of this. Fundamentally, he is my friend, and we're fellow human beings trying to make sense of this world and our place in it, given our personal family histories and the history of creativity and joy and wonder, and also violence and danger. Like, it's a complicated world. And humanity first. Divisions are real, though. And, I can't. Okay, now. I need to then, since we were just talking about, right? We were just talking about that rally in Madison Square Garden. I'm going to right now show you again, because this is the critical point. We're going to talk about this. We now believe that Tony Hinchcliffe finally did something that's funny. He's always been known as an unfunny guy who tells racist jokes and racists laugh at them. But now his whole shtick may have backfired because he may have single-handedly been the James Comey of this election, which is to say, he has gotten people so angry in swing states, especially including Pennsylvania, that this may make all the difference in the world. We've got 7 days, but who knew that the October surprise would be an unknown racist comic? I'm going to play this for you again. I know you've seen it, but it's important to me because we've got some other people to comment on the other side, namely Kamala Harris.
Going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody.
Okay, again, all of his words were pre-filled into the teleprompter. Number two, he made many racist and vulgar statements. He was never asked to leave. You know, they know how to play music at Trump's rallies when they don't want someone to talk. They did not blast Donald's playlist over this racist idiot, right? Also, I have seen on Twitter, don't know if this is true, but that he tried out these jokes at a comedy club either the day before, a couple days before this, and people didn't laugh much. And he said, oh, it's going to play better in New York. Well, my friend, or not my friend, my very sick human being, you messed up. But thank you for your service. Now, what did Kamala Harris have to say about that? Now, you know, immediately in response to this, many people spoke out against this, including there were some Republicans who actually tried to distance themselves from these remarks. But there is no walking away from this. Okay, so we know about the new endorsements that resulted from this, including major rap star Bad Bunny, and also, Selena Gomez. We got tons of people. Now let's listen to Kamala Harris on her response on the tarmac to the press when they asked about the rally from Monday night. I'm sorry, it wasn't Monday night, Sunday night.
This is not new about him, by the way. What he did last night is not a discovery. It is just more of the same and maybe more vivid than usual. Donald Trump spends full time trying to have Americans point their finger at each other, fans the fuel of hate and division, and that's why people are exhausted with him. That's why people who formerly have supported Donald Trump, have voted for him, are supporting me, voting for me. People are literally ready to turn the page. They're tired of it. In terms of Puerto Rico, even when I was in the United States Senate, knowing that Puerto Rico does not have a United States Senator, I was intentional about doing what I could as a United States Senator to make sure that among my priorities, it included paying attention to the needs of the people on that island, including the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. I have announced also my plan that is about my opportunity economy writ large, but a specific target that will include a task force focused on the needs of Puerto Rico, understanding that it has very specific needs in terms of upgrading and repairing its electrical grid, what it needs in terms of investment that will be public-private partnerships. And I'm going to continue to do it. I'm very proud to have the support of folks like Bad Bunny and Jennifer Lopez and others who were supporting me before that nonsense last night at Madison Square Garden, and are supporting me because they understand that they want a president of the United States who's about uplifting the people and not berating, not calling America a garbage can, which is what Donald Trump, those are the words he has used. So there you go. I'll see you later.
Great. Now, she says they were supporting her before. I'm not sure if they announced their public support. And I may be, there were different people who suddenly announced it. And there were others who may have announced it before. My understanding, though, is there were some folks who just literally said, as a result of this, decided to come out as a huge supporter. Okay, let's see what J.D. Vance, shape-shifting J.D. Vance, who called Donald Trump, Hitler, and is now standing right by him on stage and in this campaign. I shouldn't say on stage because Donald Trump doesn't like to campaign with Vance. And the other day he said he said something that Donald said, that it's good to pick a VP no one likes because it gives you job security. What do you think of that, JD? And also, where's Usha Vance? Why is she never campaigning with you? Okay, let's listen to what happened when JD Vance was asked about the racist comments made, racist and vulgar comments made at Madison Square Garden.
Appreciate your time. At the Madison Square Garden event last night, you were there. A comedian said that Puerto Rico was a floating island of garbage. Your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that is, first of all, I didn't hear it when it happened. A comedian told a joke, and I don't think that's news worth making.
Really, JD? Really? I didn't hear it when it happened. So that's kind of trying to say it didn't happen. How is that relevant? Secondly, a comedian said it. As I said to you yesterday, when you laugh at someone who has fallen and broken their leg, that's not a joke just because you're laughing. That's an attack. So that comedian, you can call someone a comedian, doesn't mean that what they're doing is anything other than racist attacking. And then finally, it's not news. Okay, you smug, you know what, JD. Okay, so.
Appreciate your time.
Oops. Now, I got something else. I wanted to share this with you, Maria Cardona. This is after Sunday's rally, and I really wanted to share this with you yesterday, but I want you to hear what a political pundit had to say about the impact of this.
Look, Jessica, you know, you and everyone who has been talking about this have it right. This is the dark dystopian Donald Trump on steroids. And as a Latina raised in Puerto Rico, I found this deeply, deeply offensive, as so many Puerto Ricans, not just on the island, but the hundreds of thousands of voters in Pennsylvania that are of Puerto Rican descent also found it deeply, deeply offensive and disturbing. But this is actually bigger than that, Jessica. And I think what it does is it allows Americans to see the stark contrast that is exactly what Vice President Kamala Harris has been talking about these last couple of weeks and what she is going to close on. So I kind of have to thank Donald Trump and all of the misogynistic, racist, xenophobic, white supremacist speakers that he had at his rally, because they are underscoring that Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be focused on the future, is going to be focused on solutions, is going to be focused on her to-do list for Americans. Well, Donald Trump, if he gets to the Oval Office, he's going to be focused on retribution. He's going to be focused on vengeance. He's going to be slumped over on the Resolute desk working on his enemies list. She wants to get to work. Donald Trump wants to get even. And I think that stark contrast is going to show independent voters, moderate Republicans, those people who already understand and have seen that Donald Trump is completely unfit. I think a rally like today is an in-kind contribution to the Kamala Harris Tim Walz campaign.
Okay. I got something from Kamala, but before we close out this, you know, obviously Maria Cardona is speaking as a commentator, also her personal experience and her view of how this is going to play out. I want to share with you that it's so many people who work with Donald Trump, including the highest ranking military officer in the United States, who was General Milley, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Okay. And he was, this is what he had to say. We know what he's been quoted as saying, and we know what he said in his book, but he's going a little farther now. And I love this. Let's play this.
A great military. And anyone who says otherwise either never served or wanted to serve, dodge their service, or don't know what they're talking about.
Whoa. That's Donald. Let's keep going.
I can assure you, from private to general, you have an exceptional military that is highly trained, very well led, very well equipped. Right now, you're running probably about 100 to 150 ships in the oceans of the world, keeping the sea lanes safe for commerce. You're running about probably 5,000 sorties of aircraft every day. You've got 180,000 U.S. troops deployed in about 120 countries around the world, maintaining some degree of stability. That's not happening because of pixel dust and magic dust. That's happening because of well-trained, well-resourced, well-led troops around this world. And many of them are in harm's way. So every single day we should be thanking the lucky stars that we have young men and women that are willing to answer the call to the colors, because they're out there on freedom's frontier every day, allowing you to be bankers, allowing Americans the right to vote in next week, allowing Americans freedom of speech and the right to protest and so on and so forth. Those rights, the down payment for those rights, the down payment is the blood of American soldiers. And that has been paid for 2.5 centuries. So you have every right to be proud of your soldiers, your sailors, your airmen, and Marines, because they're the ones on a day-to-day basis that are providing the environment for you to enjoy the freedoms that we have. And I will tell you that those that do separate from service, I would just ask you to really consider hiring a vet. What you're going to get is a mature young man or woman. You're going to get someone who's dedicated, hard worker, who wants to get ahead. They're well-disciplined, and they're good people, and they're going to do great things for America. One of the things that the American military does and does very well is create great American citizens. And
so, you know, he is addressing a large crowd there who's receiving him well, who actually applauded when he dissed Donald Trump at the beginning. In case you missed that part, let's just play that first few seconds. It is a dig at Donald, who says everything is bad, right? He thinks America is terrible. He thinks the military is terrible. He attacks everything because everything is worse than him. He has to make himself look big and make everything else look small. So let's listen to the former highest-ranking military official in the United States, worked for Donald Trump. The very first few seconds, he is directly attacking him, not by name. Everyone knows, and they applauded. And think about what kind of audience this would be.
We have a great military, and anyone who says otherwise either never served or wanted to serve, dodged their service.
Donald Trump never served. He never wanted to serve. He said anyone who served, especially who died in battle, was a loser and a sucker. He insulted John McCain because he said he doesn't like people who get captured. And he did dodge his service with his daddy paying a doctor to claim he had bone spurs. Let's remember that. Okay, I got one more thing for you before Crazy Town. We have a fun Crazy Town. So campaigning is hard. The issues we face are hard. And we did talk at the beginning of the show about what's going on in the Middle East. And Kamala Harris was in Ann Arbor, Michigan yesterday. And of course, you know, Ann Arbor is a major college town. And she is addressing that crowd there. And she faced protesters around the war in Gaza who want it to end. And obviously, who also want the hostages to come home. I say obviously, I hope that. Some people do. Some people aren't really focused on that, but you will see her response here.
And listen, hey, on the subject of Gaza, hey guys, I hear you. On the subject of Gaza, we all want this war to end as soon as possible and get the hostages out, and I will do everything in my power to make it so. And let's be clear, we are all here because we are fighting for a democracy and for the right of people to be heard and seen. We're not about the enemy within. We know we are all in this together. That's what we are fighting for.
Based on how she handled that, how the crowd responded, I think she is doing an excellent job in what is now seemingly, but doesn't have to be, an intractable problem. Because there are some people who would rather have Donald Trump elected. And I will tell you, they may say that, well, there are people who rather have Donald Trump elected regardless of their previous political party because of the situation in Israel and Palestine. And these are people of every religion, every background. And I think they're making a huge mistake. And she's making the case that she can make there. Okay, let us go now to Crazy Town. This is a good Crazy Town. So, our Crazy Town today is Kari Lake. Kari Lake, who is, as you know, running for Senate in Arizona. And Kari Lake was at one time a television commentator, right? She had a TV show, and she did run, as you may know. I'm going to turn this down. Kari Lake did run for governor of Arizona in 2022, and she lost. but she still hasn't conceded the election. And so here we have Kari Lake. And one of my favorite things about Kari Lake is the lack of self-awareness that she has around the filter she puts on her camera. She's got like that Vaseline filter that they wouldn't even give, film stars in the 1930s. I mean, it looks really, really weird. Now, so when you look at her side by side with Caitlin Collins, and she looks so different, like it's like you're looking at her through like if you just had eye surgery and you can't quite see her, or you just awoke from a coma and you're finally like the world is becoming clear to you. And that's Kari Lake. And let me tell you, God forbid that happened. If the first thing I saw after I couldn't see and I opened my eyes was flipping Kari Lake, I would shut my eyes and say, it's not worth it. Okay, let's play this.
Did you lose the 2022 election for governor?
Why are we looking backward? I'm looking forward, Caitlin.
Because
I already
you've
know
yet
what
to
you're
concede that race.
Caitlin, I'm looking forward to what is coming up. I'm looking forward to November 5th and this huge election. And the people of our state are caring about what's coming up, what's going forward. How are we going to make sure we secure the border? What can we as Republicans do to make sure we bring back that thriving economy where we had record low unemployment?
So you're not going to say whether or not you lost the 2022 race. Is that what I'm hearing?
You know what, Caitlin? You've seen thousands of interviews from me. I've answered that a million times. I'm looking forward.
You've actually yet to answer the question directly on whether you believe that you did lose the election.
Well, I want to make sure our elections are run properly, and I'm still in litigation, so I don't want to speak to that.